Hello, I'm John Ball, the CTO and founder of Pat Inc. And today I want to take you through the round-the-world ticketing options that are available and show you what our new model that we designed back in 2019-2020, what that looks like and why it's a step forward for the airline industry and probably a number of industries that use an IT system to book potentially with natural language understanding. Where this came from was back in 2020, we presented to the oneworld team a solution that was going to incorporate our natural language understanding solution. And interestingly, as that meeting finished up, was pretty much the closure of global airlines of countries due to the COVID pandemic, which has continued to some degree up until today. But that's given us time to go and build a system and deploy it. And what you'll see is what oneworld has done with our design and another implementer to go and bring this to life. So I'm going to now contrast the different solutions for the around the world ticketing with the new one that we've designed. Let me just start though by explaining what had happened. So we were looking for the right type of system with oneworld that we could improve on. At some point, one of the executives that we were working with asked the very important question, what does a travel agent do? Can you just emulate a travel agent? And you sort of think, well, that's what we're trying to do. But actually, that's not what we're trying to do. What IT professionals do today is they take what already is in production, what your database looks like, and then they ask questions to populate your database and get the answer that you want. That's not what a travel agent does. So I realized, having reflected on that for 24 hours, that the right solution is to emulate a travel agent by what they do and let the details then follow from that. And there was a really important distinction we found as a result of that. So to start with, when you walk into a travel agent, you say, I'd like a round the world ticket. They don't say, what date do you want to leave? What date do you want to return? What date do you want to get to the first country you're going to? What date do you want to go to the second country? What date do you want to go to the third country? That's not how human beings work. We work very differently, and we would say things like, what's the cost? How long are you going for? When do you want to leave? That type of thing is much more human-like, and that's what we wanted to emulate, and there's some good reasons for it. So, for example, if you walk into a travel agent and say, how much does a round-the-world ticket cost? They might say $3,000 economy, $13,000 business class, and then you go, oh, that's my budget, that's right. I'll go and call my friend in London, I'll call my friend in Chicago, I'll visit my sister, I'll speak to them. And you work out when you can go to places. You don't really have the answers to when do you want to leave yet, because you don't know who's available. And equally, if it's a business trip, it's the same thing. You have to find out when you can have those business meetings, schedule them in, and then you can go and book your travel requirements. So that's the model that we aim to do, and you'll see it in action. So you start by getting your budget so that you can get the information you need on your first call, and then potentially come back with your details, assuming that you can get your budget together for it. And then secondly, if you're asking where do you want to go, you want to lay it out in terms of how people work. We don't know the rule set necessarily of an around the world ticket. In the case of oneworld, you can go, say, to Europe, and you can take a couple of side flights, whatever the details are, and that means you could go to London and then to Paris, and then you could leave Europe as part of your trip, for example, which you wouldn't think so if it was geographically driven only. And the other thing is, you might not know, in order to get your round the world ticket, geographically, if I go to England first and then I want to go, say, somewhere in Africa, am I backtracking, or how does that work? So rather than that, let's just work with where do you want to go. So in the example I'm going to show, we'll just take some examples. You can hear from my accent, I spent a bit of time in Sydney, Australia. So we'll start from Sydney, and we want to go to New York, Chicago, London, Paris, LA, perhaps Tokyo. So that's what our trip's going to look like when we run through it. But as I've just listed those out, maybe I've got it in the right order, maybe I don't. And maybe once I've got those locations, there's no ticket available in the time frame that I want that goes to the places that I would like to go to. And I may not care which order I go in. I don't know, it depends when you book. So when you booked your friends to speak to them. So you want to cater to all of that, and it's better to find out where you want to go first and then fit your user requirements. That's what you're giving to the agent. With the system and IT requirements, that's what your IT system can do. And IT systems are really good at optimizing that sort of thing, as as you'll see. So let's move on to the demo. Let me bring that up. Now, at the moment, things are still in an unusual state in that the world's airlines are not back to normal after COVID. So in this case, as you can see, SkyTeam has currently suspended their RTW service. Not a big deal for us because we've got some other choices here. So this is the Star Alliance option. And the first thing Star Alliance is asking us for is, where do you live? So we'll say Australia based on what I said. We'll go economy class. We'll leave from Sydney, which is what I said I was going to do. Not Sydney, Canada, Sydney, Australia. Departure date, we'll set it sometime in the future that's far enough out so that we're not going to get caught with having no flights available, because that's quite possible at the moment. Let's go there for the Monday. One adult. Okay, so we're up and running. And now we start to put in the destinations. So I said Tokyo. Let's go to Tokyo, Japan. You can see it's very nicely, it's identified it for me. That's the place I want to go. When do I want to go? Well, I said I'm leaving on the 13th, so let's say 13th, see what that does. Okay, so we've put Tokyo in there. We get a nice little line showing that we're flying from Sydney to Tokyo. Now, what's our next destination? I'd said London. So let's try London. London, UK. We press the plus. We'll go there the following week. Let's have a week in Tokyo. And now we see London's being drawn, working beautifully. Where will we go next? Paris? Paris, France, not Paris, Texas. Oh, we get no results. Now, my guess is, and I don't know, and I'm not going to check it, that you can't backtrack the way this system's set up. I don't know if that's true. Don't want to say the wrong thing. But it doesn't look, it wasn't allowing me to get to Paris with that step. So let's go to New York City next. Because the point that I'm showing you here is that it's asking me a lot of very detailed questions. So I'm giving the location I want to go to, and then it's forcing me to give a date. Now, imagine if on the date that I want to fly, there's no flights. And I've just put in all of my destinations, and now the first, Tokyo is not available on that date. That's bad, because now I need to know if I slip that, I've got to slip the next, I've got to slip the next. You might be doing a lot of edits if you're trying to keep your trip the same. What have I done? I've just hit the wrong button. I think this is just giving me the options of where I can go. How do I get out of that? Just goes to show, never talk and try and do something on the screen at the same time. Where can we go? Well, I'd said New York, didn't I? So let's try that. I can't click over there. I can't escape back from it. What can I do? I don't know. So one of the things with these is that sometimes the systems can be a little bit brittle and unforgiving. So you're seeing me struggle with this in real time. Obviously, you could have more time if you're doing this from home. I've just chosen the US. I'm now going to go down and choose New York, because that's what I said I was going to do. LMNO, New Nashville, New York City. So there, I must have not put in my date, and then I just clicked on something else. So now I've got my trip to New York. It's now scheduling me for the return, and notice it's popped up with the price. I wasn't noticing whether or not we had a price before, but it's now the $5,000 there. Let's just finish this. So I'm adding in Chicago. We'll go there the following week on the Saturday, say. It's now going to fly me to Chicago, and then it's going to fly me back to Sydney. It's dropped the price. That's pretty cool. And then the last one is Los Angeles, California. And we'll just have a couple of weeks in Chicago before we go from there, and then we head back. Now we're at $4,300 for the total trip. At this point, we've now mapped out the flight or the flights, and we can continue on. It's looking for the flight options, and at this point, it's possible that there's no flights available. Okay, at this point we're going no transport found from Tokyo to London. So we've hit a problem, invalid trip. I guess if we did something else, we'd be able to do it. But the point I'm making here isn't that I'm an expert in how these systems work. It's just, well, this is the type of thing that we want to improve on, and we can improve on it with next generation technology. So I think we'll leave that one there. It'd be, you might enjoy playing around with that yourself if you've got a trip to do. And we'll go now on to the oneworld site. So around the world with oneworld, let's book now. And this is the old system that was around in 2020 when we started. Let's look at the virtual agent here. So this is the new user interface. And setting up dialogue. From which city would you like to depart? Notice we've got economy class here and the number of, it's got the same types of things that we previously had. I'm going to leave from Sydney. And now that I've entered that, there's multiple cities named Sydney. So it's giving me a click box. I'm going to click on Sydney SYD because Sydney Airport is SYD. And now we've got the little Sydney flag there. And notice that we've met that requirement of going into the travel agent. We've already put up the pricing for the trips depending on the choice that you finish up with, 3 continents, 4 continents. So this is based on the rule set and how that particular system works. So I'm going to price an itinerary. It's just asked me why I'm here. What cities would I like to visit? Now this is the cool bit. So let's say I want London. I want Tokyo. I want New York. I think this is more like how people work, not how the database wants us to work. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. I think that's all I had there. So now that I've entered that, we've done what we said to the travel agent. This is where we want to go, and now we've sent it off to the engine that's been extremely well built by the people that have done this implementation for oneworld, not us. And they've done a fantastic job at all of this interaction, as you can see. So your itinerary for 4 continents, 1 adult, is $36.99, and it's saying I'm ready to set city order. So let's click there. It's worked out a way for us to go, so it's sending us to Tokyo, London, New York, Chicago, LA. So it's the same path that we had last time. But it says here, would you like to make changes? What can we do? Okay, so we can add London, drop New York. So this is where the NLU functionality comes in, the language function where you can say add this, change that. Let's just have a bit of fun here and say add Paris. It's differing from the first one that I did, but then we didn't get to the end of that one anyway. So now we're going, let's see, you can see over here, we're going Paris first, and then we go to London and then to New York. So that looks pretty good. I'm ready to set dates. Now, all we've said is this is where we want to go. The system's plotted out how we could get there and asked us if that looks good. And in fact, that's probably a key point. When we were doing the design of this, remember that some things just aren't good for language. It's much better to see interactively what you want to do on a screen and then say, that looks good, or change this to that. It's much easier for people to work like that. And so, as you can see, that's part of the design. When would you like to begin your trip? You can say things like February. You can put in one of those awful forms. The 1st of the 2nd, 2023. Let's just see if we can do in 4 weeks. I don't think it can do this, but I'm just putting that in to see what happens because this is sort of an NLU test. Okay, so I think we have a misunderstanding. It thinks that that's a duration. So let's try again. I want to leave in, what did I say, February. And this is how people like to work. You don't like saying the 1st of the 2nd, or 2nd of the 1st, depending on where you're from. It's much better to say February or 2nd week in February, those types of things. And how long would we like our trip to last? 2 months. And by giving the start date and the duration, we're leaving the system to go and find out when there's available flights and do all of the hard work that you as a user might have to do otherwise. And what you could see with the old system is you would want to leave on a particular date, but there's no flight on that date. And the change of that date then affects your leaving date if you've got a particular period of time you want to stay in one place. So anyway, you can see here the system has set the trip duration for, well, 2 months, 60 days. It's modified the trip duration to make things work. I mean, how good's that? This is a good travel agent. I love it. And then you can say things like, I need to be in Paris on such and such a day. So let's look up the flights. It's a fun thing to play with because of the interaction with this virtual agent that looks a little bit like a travel agent, but it's got this massive amount of information that it can pull to apply to the problems of your travel. So we're getting flight. So it says here it can take up to 2 minutes. I'm prepared to wait. I think we'll just run through it so you can see the end-to-end thing. I think you could spend 4 minutes and then it would come back in the past. Maybe not this system, but it would come back with something like, I don't know, I can't get something. It's not a valid, I can't get from Tokyo to Paris or something. And then I don't know what you do at that point because you need to be an expert in the rules set and geography and dates and that type of thing. What's it said? I could not get you in and out of New York using the same airport. Oh, okay. Well, that's good. I don't care. With the current dates, I could not get you out of Tokyo using the same airport. Okay, well, I don't care. It's good, Let's assume that this is a holiday, not a business trip where potentially you'd get really burned up. So I've selected the most direct flights. You can review this. And so this is the point where now, if it's important, you can go through and you can do the adjustments. But all of that hard work of getting the flights right has now been done automatically. I'm ready to finalize price. In the middle here, you can see that we've chosen Qantas, Japan Airlines, British Airways, American Airlines. You can play around with that if you've got frequent flyer considerations. All of these things are configurable with the NLU interface or with other drop-downs or other features of an IT system. Okay, so there's our price, $4,900. Thank you for using the virtual agent. So at that point, that's our demo. I think it's great. Well done, guys. Nice design too. Let's take that away. So let me just wrap up then. So the next generation technology as it applies to these types of IT systems using NLU, the goal is to emulate an agent or the person doing the sale so that you can ask the right questions that allow the process to flow in a way where you're leveraging the strengths of both the language part, but then also the back-end solution. And in this case, when we're looking at how the existing, all of that flight information that you were completely, it was completely unknown to you because the system automated that. Some of that stuff is very complicated to get right in terms of implementation. And again, the implementation of this has been excellent to get to this point. So that's me for today, signing off. Hope you enjoyed the Medium article. Hope you enjoyed this today. I look forward to seeing you again soon. It's John Ball at Pad Inc. Bye for now.